since you mentioned Nick Land before, are you familiar with Nick Land's reading of Deleuze as basically, to be very cartoonish and simplistic about it, Land seems to think that Deleuze basically loves capitalism, and that capitalism is like, this beautiful deterritorializing function that is basically the engine of liberation.
Yeah.
And what do you think of it?
So, I'll say to you the exact same thing I said to Andrew Kolb on this topic, which is that I do not sincerely believe Nick Land read 1,000 Plateaus all the way through.
Why do you say that?
Because in 1,000 Plateaus, they directly address the things that Nick Land takes too seriously about Deleuze.
Okay, go on.
In Anti-Oedipus, they say all the things about, you must accelerate the process, and, we can only go further, you must go, in order to, go beyond capitalism, you must go through it. They say all of that stuff in Anti-Oedipus. And then in 1,000 Oedipus, they go, wait the fucking second, that's not what we meant at all.
So what did they mean in your view?
To me, they mean that there are things within capitalism that must be developed before any post-capitalist reality can be accomplished.
Okay.
I think as far as building to scale, the ability to overproduce food, the ability to develop distribution networks that function efficiently. I think capitalism is great at doing that. I don't think that the way in which distribution actually occurs is great about capitalism. But I think that capitalism has developed the networks in order to be moved through for any post-capitalist reality. But I think that those things were developed 50 years ago. I don't think that that's anything particularly new. I don't think that that's anything we need to wait for. I think that the things that we need from capitalism are done.
Okay. Now, however, they are very against protesting or objecting. They tend to see in political activism and these different forms of trying to organize against capitalism, they're inclined to see a lot of resentment and resistances that ultimately get further entrapped by, let's just call it capitalism or the institutions. And so they definitely seem to have a quite kind of anti-activist edge to them. Would you agree with that, or would you reject that?
I'm inclined to say I agree. And the reason I'm inclined to say I agree is because I read them in the same way Andrew Kolb does, that they are advocating for withdrawal from the machine. They're not advocating for any type of reformism. The revolution they're calling for is not political, or is not macro political, right? They are not advocating Qatari directly is not advocating total self-management as much as I want him to. He has written text against self-management, and he's written text against, at least like in the political sense, he's written text against self-management and against wildcat strikes, and he really doesn't like anarchists for some reason. But also that's mostly his early stuff when he was still a Trotskyist, so who knows what he thought in his late life. But,
you think they're not cheerleaders for capitalism in this kind of very cryptic, hidden way, but rather you would agree that they eschew all kind of current forms of traditional political activism or organizing for the most part. So what does a Deleuze-Guattarian politics look like?
Everyone you ask is going to give you a different answer, so I can only answer for myself, right?
Yeah, they're very obscure about it. I mean, it's a very big question.
Yeah, to me, the Deleuze-Guattarian politics is the withdrawal that you find in like cults like Deleuze. That it's a type of escape from capitalism. That there will be no overthrowing capitalism. There will be no day that we can kill all our landlords. Unfortunately, I don't believe that day can come. But there can be an ulterior system built within, I believe, the urban metropolis. I sincerely believe that networks can be produced, that distribution can begin to occur outside of capitalism without the need to overthrow it, simply because I don't think we have enough time. I don't...
What's your take on how that, if you want to kind of enact a Deleuze-Guattarian politics, do you try to organize to force things to change, or is it a kind of very internal ethics, a kind of a certain way of being or living or thinking or conducting oneself that then maybe, because this is basically my view, that it's basically a kind of ethics in which if one orients oneself in the right way and is able to basically liberate one's thinking
you think you already have a
and,
website? That's cool.
and
You're
feeling
or
and
create your site now
and acting.
Wix.com.
If one is able to liberate one's energies, in other words, from these kind of molar entrapments in which they're generally by default captured, then maybe, just maybe, we might be able to find new ways of interacting and building groups or building relationships that then might somehow be on a kind of vector towards a kind of revolutionary change in the macro structure. But there's no question of trying to dismantle the macro structure as such in any kind of organized activist sort of way. So in some sense, the Deleuze-Guattarian politics I see is a certain way of thinking and orienting oneself to the world, but other than that, you can't really force anything.
Yeah, I agree, but I would only
Besitzen
go
Sie eine
further.
Domain?
I
Dann
would
sind Ihre
say
persönlichen
that,
Daten wie Name, Adresse,
to
möglicherweise
invoke
auch
Sun
E-Mail
Ra
oder
again,
Telefonnummer
because I
öffentlich im
think Sun
Internet
Ra
zugänglich.
describes it
Damit
very
Ihre
well.
persönlichen Daten sicher geschützt sind, gibt es
That
neue Domain Privacy
in
auch für
this
.ch-Domains für 12
effectively
Franken.
revolutionary
Postbank,
capacity for
Ihr Schweizer
music,
Anbieter für
the
Domains,
goal
Webseiten und
of
E-Mail.
any space musician is to spread the music. it's to allow for more people to have that moment where the music allows them to be physically transformed. And so I think that, the only thing that can really be done outside of this molecular evolution, it is to not force, but to, in a possibly very situationist way, produce situations that allow for more people to have that moment for physical transformation.
Yeah, that's right. I'm all aboard that take. I think that's right. So one can creatively and autonomously produce new forms of life, new arrangements, new ways of acting or being with each other. But it has to be autonomous, and it has to be basically small scale, right? Like anything that goes kind of straight to the state is kind of off limits, I think, in the Uzo-Guattarian register. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I do think that ultimately, we do have 12 years before the world ends. Right? Not before it ends, but before we're doomed. Right? So I do think that there must be some level of expediency in that building process. But I don't think that there's anything any individual human can do to make that happen. If anything, it will take major capacity.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting. Do you, trying to think how I wanted to kind of bring this full circle back to some of the stuff we originally started talking about with respect to your just like your larger, like what is kind of the larger question, or how should I put it? Like what would you say is your main kind of overarching, orienting interest or goal or question intellectually? Like what is the big idea or big puzzle at the heart of the different authors that you're interested in and the different ideas you're trying to develop? If there's kind of one big idea at the core of it, what would that be?
At the core of everything that I do right now is the idea that what is currently believed to be impossible is possible. And to explore all the ways in which impossibility can exist. And so I mean that logically, politically, socially, I mean that in all senses of production, right? To explore every mode that is possible. Because that's something that needs to be done. I don't think people realize how important philosophy is.
Okay, right on. Well, I order you to write a book on that as soon as possible. I think if you write a book on that, you should go write a book on that and then come back on on my live stream and sell it to people.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
There's no need to wait anymore, you know?